Our next speaker will be speaking about building cyber resilience, advanced detection and response. And the speaker is the CEO of Security Matterz. Please put your hand together for Muntaser Bdair.
Assalamu alaikum. Good afternoon, and glad to be here with you. Inshallah, I'll be presenting about the cybersecurity resilience, advanced detection and response, an area that I've been working with or on for the last 20 years. The topics that I usually would like to cover around this area is related to the building of your cybersecurity operations center capabilities, talk about the different options that you have when you want to build your managed services or SOC, the visibility detection capabilities, in my opinion, the cornerstone for this element. And today, taking it a little bit further with a new DR. We have EDR, NDR, XDR. Now we have a PDR, phishing detection and response. So I want to highlight that. And obviously, how is this all offered as managed detection and response and managed security services? I'll wrap it around those topics. If we start with the cybersecurity resilience, in general, you want to try and actually achieve that Gartner adaptive security architecture or even the cybersecurity different frameworks, look at it from different phases or approaches. You start with prediction, you move to the try to prevent the attacks as much as possible, but obviously that's not gonna be 100% successful. We know that something is gonna get through no matter how much you try to prevent. So that's why we build our capability for detection, and then we try to do the response. That's why every time we talk about this, thank you, remove it. Try to, basically when you build your incident response, why did we get to that? Because if you look back, we put a lot of our efforts toward building protection, defending. So we bought a lot of solutions. We built a lot of technologies to help us try to avoid the problems. But reality, sooner or later, you will be breached, you will be attacked. And that's why we said it's not if you will be hacked or breached, it's when. With that in mind, we wanted to build our resilience. And when we started to do business security resilience, we needed to figure out that if it does go through, if the breach happens, how ready I am. And here's where I tie into the detection and response that I'll be talking about today. As you all know, this is not anything new, but it's important to realize the importance of when you're building your cybersecurity center and the SOC capability, whether you're building it inside your organization or you're getting it by another organization offered by an MSSP, you need to make sure that they have all the different parts. We're talking about the technologies, which is important, but we realize that that by itself does not do the job, so we have to go and make sure that we have the right people with the qualification. We also have to have documentation, processes and procedures in place. And today we even added the place. We used to talk about the 3 Ps, now 4 Ps. The place. Do you have it in-house, or it is in the cloud, or it's a hybrid? All of that, you have to take it into place. This is, again, nothing new. I've been talking about it for almost 10 years, 15 years. But what is important from experience when you're building this capability is what I call the glue. How do you put all of this together and make it in sync? It's easier to invest into technology. It's easy to invest into people, the processes and procedure. You bring lots of people and consultants to do it for you. But until you put it together and spend the time to do it, you will not have the right maturity. Maturity for building your operations center SOC is going to take time. It is not a month, 6 months, a year time frame. We're talking 3 years, 4 years, 5 years journey, and it's a continuous one. That's a very important realization. expectation, my opinion, if I was to advise any of my customers, any of the people as an advisor service, set the right expectation internally to yourself and to your management about the fact that cybersecurity is a long journey and it's a continuous process. It's not a one-time shot, and that's an important element. When we've tried so many different models for the SOC, Security Operations Center. We started by, usually, I want to do it in-house, okay, in-source. Bring the resources, the technology, everything in-house, and I do it. That's a good option. A lot of control for you. But in reality, that's a very expensive option. So what's the other option? Totally the opposite is where I do outsource, where you outsource both the technology and the people that are monitoring and providing the service completely outside your organization. Again, it's from a cost perspective, it's an OpEx, something you know how much it's going to cost you. The headache is transferred, but in reality, they don't know your environment as much as you do. So usually it's very generic. I'm an MSSP provider, but I can say the same. We won't know the environment. So what's the better option? An option I believe I was a champion of it for a long time, especially here in the Middle East, the hybrid model. We need to have some technologies on site, some remote, people on site, so I can mix and match. I want to have some control in our organization, but I want to leverage the experience and the scalability of an MSS provider. That's another option. Depending, and again, which option do I do? That's what we do as a consultant. We try to figure out what is the best model for you. But also, it depends on your sector. If you're in the defense sector, chances are you have to go in-house. If you are, now at least there's regulation that it has to be within Saudi Arabia. Before it was anywhere. All these controls, all these needs, you have to identify them when you're choosing your option. A popular option that I personally believe in, especially when you have to do it in-house, is build, operate, transfer. Very common. Where you bring somebody with experience to help you build it, operate it for a while, but the ultimate goal is to go. Am I already exceeding the time? Wow. Okay. The visibility is a cornerstone of this discussion. I put this together, and each year I keep putting additional ones. I'm not selling any of those vendors in particular, but I do like to bring, so that's why you have different names. And by no means they're extensive. There's so many of each one. Huh? Okay. But in order to build SOC, security operations visibility or detection capability, you've got to have the right technologies. If you look at it, you've got the SIM is the typical one we've all worked in the last 15, 20 years, making sure that the logs are there so that we can detect if there's any attacks or breaches. Then we wanted to extend it to the network level, so we put NDR, network detection and response. Then we extended it to EDR, endpoint detection and response. All of these are terms that we've been using. EDR, NDR, like I said, XDR today. But then we said, okay, we have all these technologies. We need to enhance our visibility. So we did bring threat intelligence, whether you're talking about threat intelligence platform, TIP, or threat intelligence feeds, which are what feeds into the threat intelligence platform. All that will enhance your visibility by giving you the prediction. Today, we talk a lot about AI, artificial intelligence, the capability to predict things and automate your environment. That's also being put into the detection and response. SOAR, security orchestration and automation response. This is the technology that will help you to do what? To go and actually automate so that you can make the operation more efficient. Because one of the biggest challenges in the SOC is being able to detect, using the technology, but also being able to respond to it, people element. How do you improve it? You have some technologies that can help you with that. Again, lots of names, lots of vendors, and again, no preference to certain one. I put what I usually typically deal with, but it's important that you have the right technologies, you got to have the right processes. And as I mentioned today, I started to, again, from my perspective, I help customers build security operations center, but I'm also enhancing our own managed security service. PDR is a new term, again, but it's been there forever. Phishing detection and response is something that's there, but now it's more articulated. Why? Because as you know, most of the attacks are coming from where? So coming at the human level, trying to do social engineering, phishing attack simulation, and so on. And we've had phishing simulators, we've had different technologies, but again, we want to put technologies that help us automate and respond faster, so that when I'm doing it, I'm not fatiguing my SOC analyst. That's where the PDR concept is there. Cofense is leading that. They have a session. It is an important part in terms of adding to your detection and response capability. So the visibility goes beyond the NDR, EDR, SIM technology, and the others to the human element. From an MDR, you've heard these terms. Again, MSS, MDR, Managed Detection and Response. What do you offer? Typically, like you saw in the picture, I need the detection capabilities, whether it is SIM, NDR, XDR, EDR, PDR, all these different mechanisms to give you inputs into your visibility. But then obviously you have to have the right processes, mechanisms to respond. Those are the MDR services that talks about threat detection and the capability to respond, whether you respond by incident handling or all the way to digital forensics. These are the capabilities of an MDR service provider. If I want to go further, which is what I am trying to, I like to try and figure out the terminology and hopefully get in sync with the industry to try and, when I offer it, it's in line with what people are looking for. So MDR is what I used to call it MSS, Managed Security Service. But now, reality, what we're providing, us and others, is MDR, Managed Detection and Response. I want to go even further. This is where I start going into the MSS, okay, which is the MDR capabilities. And if you notice, this is from a service catalog. It's very important to do that with your own internal SOC, or if you are a service provider, to identify the type of services. Because the basics is managed monitoring and incident handling. That's the basic. But you could have managed vulnerability assessment, managed penetration testing, XDR. All these different are services that are constituted as part of the MSS. So how many of those do you need? It depends. It depends on your own maturity, your requirement, but also regulation. SAMA or central bank regulation requires certain services to be by every organization. NCA requires that. And best practices tells you what to do. On the higher level, what I call it MSO, Managed Security Operation, this is where we get into helping you operate your own technologies, okay? And by helping you operate your own technologies, again, taking the headache from the customer, who is usually what is their major challenges. Why do you have a lot of managed services these days? Is the reason people element. It goes all down to the people element. Even if I have the right resources, our biggest challenge here in Saudi Arabia, the Middle East, I go around the whole Middle East, and even in the US, the same thing. In Europe where I work, what's the biggest issue? The people element, the shortage. Qualified people are, we have lack or shortage of qualified people, but even when we find them, what's the chances, especially in an operation, they will move on. That big challenge requires you to offer services. That's where the managed security services, whether it's an MSS or an MSO or MDR, is there to support the customers to reach it. With that in mind, I hope at least I I went through quickly with the time frame that I have to outline that to build your cybersecurity resilience, it's a multifaceted one. It's a protection, prevention, GRC, all these different services, but also to build your resilience and be able to be ready for disaster recovery or business continuity one, you have to solidify your detection and response capability, which ultimately will help you to build your cybersecurity and business resilience. Thank you for taking the time. Appreciate it. يعطيكم العافية and good to have this session.